So we're here today to talk about, at the moment, we don't do any work really in the Northwest or North Central. So this is a new area for us. So what we're trying to do is to understand particularly the threat that currently exists from banditry and the relationship that that threat may or may not have with terrorism. So my role today is to really talk to you, to get a sense from you the degree to which you think that banditry may be purely a criminal activity, or whether it may be a more complicated relationship perhaps between criminal activity and the activities of groups like ISWAP and JAS and SARU. So that's my main purpose for being here.
That was the moment the Nigerian police force in Zamfara State, the Commissioner of Police to be precise, was briefing the representative of the United Nations about the insecurity in the northern part of the country. Now, the Nigerian Police Commissioner made it known categorically. This is the full video where he told the whole world that they have arrested some politicians, including House of Assembly member, former local government chairman, community head, political parties, youth leaders, and so on and so forth.
Sit down. Today is another day in the history on drugs control. Are you out?
And related crimes in the state, more especially as they affect drugs. Yesterday the time was too small. We only took for 10 minutes. There are other additional information I want you to know, because banditry in Zamfara State is now becoming an industry. So it is becoming more and more complex. With the presence of highly placed individuals in the society in banditry, we can say now banditry is an industry in Zamfara State. Last month, we arrested a member of the State House of Assembly in banditry here in Zamfara State. We arrested a district head. We also as well arrested a former local government chairman. So you can see that involvement of this class of people in banditry is more making the situation to become more and more complex. So in essence, I can say that all caliber of people now are involved. All manner of people are involved in this banditry. More alarming and more disturbing is the involvement of a district head in supplying drugs to the bandits. So in that respect, your presence here today is highly appreciated, hoping that with your expertise, we can synergize and achieve results in combating banditry and drug addiction in Zamfara State. Most of these bandits carry out their nefarious activities under the influence of drugs. Therefore, I think presence of experts like you here is a welcome development, more especially in areas where we are lagging behind. If you can help us with your technical expertise, it will go a long way in resolving this crisis. As you rightly highlighted, we have forensic laboratory in Lagos. The distance from here to Lagos is about 700 kilometers. Sometimes if we arrest suspects before we can carry our samples there for laboratory analysis, considering the fact that the law demands us to charge suspects after 48 hours in detention. we will appreciate if there will be any development towards ensuring establishment of a forensic laboratory in Zamfara State. It will serve the northwestern states and save us from going to Lagos anytime we have sample for analysis. Sometimes, if we are forced by the pressure that demands, constitutional demands, that we have to take suspect to court after 24 hours with samples, like, for example, cannabis sativa, we will say the suspect has been arrested with a substance suspected to be Indian hemp or cannabis sativa. We will say suspected to be because we cannot conclude without the laboratory analysis. So if we will have any forensic laboratory here, it will save us a lot of problems. Within 24 hours, we can get the result and we can prosecute within the time limit stated by the law. So far, so good. I want to assure you that the crime rate in Zamfara State is reducing drastically due to synergy that has been in existence between police and other sister security agencies in the state. The military are doing their best on daily basis together with the other members of the joint task force, the police and DSS. They spend sleepless nights in trying to bring the crime rate low. And now I can assure you that you can hardly hear any attack on the major roads in Zamfara State. They can only go inside the bush in the villages and attack people. Even at that, with the formation of community protection guard by the state government, who have their members in all the communities in the state, I'm telling you that we have succeeded in bringing the rate of banditry in the state to its lowest ever.
So we're here today to talk about, at the moment, we don't do any work really in the Northwest or North Central. So this is a new area for us. So what we're trying to do is to understand particularly the threat that currently exists from banditry and the relationship that that threat may or may not have with terrorism. So my role today is to really talk to you, to get a sense from you the degree to which you think that banditry may be purely a criminal activity, or whether it may be a more complicated relationship perhaps between criminal activity and the activities of groups like ISWAP and JAS and SARU. So that's my main purpose for being here. Then the idea is to try and find ways that we might be able to assist with basic support. So I can share with you some of the things we've done with the police in other areas. I primarily focus on CID and detective capability. So we do a lot of work around forensic recovery, training people to collect physical evidence at crime scenes. In 6-7 states now, we have actually refurbished the evidence stores to try and make them a little bit more efficient, also provide them with a little bit more equipment, for example, like fridges and a regular power supply, so that they could actually also store biological items as well for subsequent analysis forensically. We also do some training around investigative interviewing. We do some training around intelligence analysis. We've done some training on source handling and running informants. So, depending on where the needs are and the types of activities that you're involved in, we also do some training. In fact, we have a training course running in Abuja at the moment on the countering of terrorist financing. So sometimes the very specialized police tasks, we might be able to assist with training opportunities. But what we are mostly trying to focus on actually is really very basic fundamentals of criminal investigation. I'm very aware that policing is a lot more than just investigating. There's a lot of other tasks that the police are involved in. Obviously, public order is tremendously important, providing uniformed protection and so forth on the streets. But our focus primarily tends to be on criminal investigation and trying to find ways to leverage the advantages you can gain when you can forensically exploit evidence. That said, we're very, I've been here 6 years. I'm an investigator by background myself, so I am very familiar with the challenges that you operate within. I'm very, very clear on the fact that forensic exploitation is very rare now. Used to be more common, but in the last 20 years, the ability for an ordinary state police force to be able to get a forensic response to a request, it's very, very rare. I think I would be right in saying right now, if there is a national police laboratory in Alagbon in Lagos, which is the main forensic center, they did about 254 forensic processes last year. The vast majority of that was handwriting analysis. So if you looked at, and so for commercial cases and disputes of wills and property and so forth. So if you look at actual forensic crime solving, you're looking at about 60 processes for the whole country, a nation of 230 million people. So I also paid attention to where the evidence was coming from. I only found 6 items of evidence that had come from outside Lagos State. So I do appreciate it's very, very rare for you to be able to send evidence all the way to Lagos and actually get to a response and use it in a case. So, you know, we are trying to figure out ways to improve that. It's not so much a capacity problem at the laboratory, where most of the equipment still functions and they have actually very well trained forensic technicians. It's more about how do we get the process unlocked so evidence gets from the field to the lab and then back so you can use it in your investigations. And that's the challenge that we're sort of wrestling with most of the time. Perhaps I can stop there. Obviously, I should say UNODC does lots of other things as well in the law enforcement sphere. I just focus on terrorism. I have colleagues, for example, who work on anti-corruption work. I have colleagues who work on drugs importation and interdiction. We have colleagues who specialize in human trafficking, in wildlife crime. Obviously, there are specialized agencies in those fields that we work with as well. But obviously, all of those colleagues work with the police, you know, in some capacity or other as well. So that's who we are. We tend to act as a middleman between donors and recipients of aid. So we don't have huge financial resources ourselves, but when we identify problems, we go to donors and say, look, this would be a really good place to come and spend your money and invest and do something. And that's why we're here, basically. The governor contacted the United Nations and asked if we could send an assessment mission up to the region to see a range of different areas, what possible areas there could be for collaboration. We'll then take that back to donor nations and try and persuade them to commit to supporting your efforts here in various different ways. So.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.